there is a point where it is not just your body.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the rights of the individual matter, and women's rights should be fought for hook and nail, but there does come to a point where you're not making just a decision for your own body. You're making a decision for the body of the life of another being.
Spit that shit out, man! That's on flip script.
Oh man, I had a weird dream about Mickey last.
Yeah.
2 nights
Do I want to hear it?
Talk about Mickey again?
It was just weird. I was in the kitchen and Mickey had her mask on and was giving me this disdainful look and yelling at me. And I was thinking,
was that a dream or a memory?
Oh, it could have been both. But I remember she was mumbling through the mask, and I'm like, what? And I was like, it would hurt because I'm emotionally impactful.
Yeah,
it's like,
of course
why is she mad at me? You know?
Yeah.
And then finally, she's like, I finally discerned that she was saying pants.
You're not wearing pants?
And I didn't have any. I looked down, I'm like, oh.
Oh my goodness.
You're telling me to put my pants on. Everybody was in the house. There was just nothing going on. I just wasn't wearing pants.
You had a pantsless dream for an audience of one.
Well, it was an audience of whoever walked through the kitchen. You know, in this place, it's like Grand Central Station. So
That's so funny. No, you feel when you feel like somebody's mad at you or like that you've done something, you feel it. You feel it deeply.
It's impactful for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you feel like you've always been like that?
I think so. Most of the time. Yeah. I don't want to hurt anybody or.
No, of course. Do you ever, when you guys do that, when you know you've hurt somebody, do you ever first be like, you want to blame it on them and then kind of come around to it was you, or are you right away like, what did I do?
I'm right away on myself. Me? Yeah.
Yeah. Like if I feel like somebody doesn't like me or that I first meet, something like that.
Yeah.
I always kind of, is it like, what am I putting off?
That's a highly improbable scenario, but let's talk about it.
I'm never like, there's something wrong with that person. No, I can't say that. It's usually not my initial feeling.
Right.
It's usually like, did I say something?
Yeah. I have a high number of mirror neurons.
Yeah. I think I just have a history of saying things, so I have to assume that first.
Yeah. I sometimes have these rhetorical flourishes that yield undesirable responses. I mean, you know, I'm not saying anything now because I feel one coming on.
It's like a tremor.
It's like a
episode,
like a cosmic vibration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Britt's removing herself from this conversation. I'm wondering why.
She's thinking about.
I'm just enjoying the tangent, sipping my tea.
We're just getting into it, man.
I know.
We're easing
I just let you guys go for a while.
We're easing into this.
I was thinking. I feel like that might be more of a masculine thing. That if somebody's angry at you or they don't like you, that you take it personally. I think that's more common for men. For sure.
Really? That's interesting because go ahead.
Well, I do also know that I personally have been blessed with this base layer of cockiness all my life. Mm-hmm. And I'm genuinely super grateful for it because if somebody meets me and doesn't like me, I usually shrug my shoulders and just think, their loss. Wow. Or maybe they can try again and get to know me. However, if it's my children who are upset, then I do blame it on myself, often to a fault sometimes. Or I'll think, what did I do that caused this? But men have a hard time with criticism.
That's interesting. Or just wanting to be liked or not. I don't know. I can't say that men want to not offend.
They want to be appreciated.
They want to be appreciated, I guess.
I know I'm appreciating that yellow jacket you've got on right now.
This is different than the one before.
Can you turn on
there's a collection
ambiance
of
light
jacket.
and then I can turn this off because that yellow jacket's kind of illuminating the room really nicely as it is.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm taking this as a compliment, Mark.
Oh no, it totally is. You know, Britt, you're hot. Britt's hot. Everybody for all listeners.
Mark's a big fan. Marty's a big fan of the yellows and oranges, of the yellow, orange, red spectrum.
Well,
really?
In the evening time I am because it's not the white light, but generally I like the blues and purple hues.
Well, that's just because it's Penn State is blue and white.
Partially, but like at night you have to I have a red light in my bedroom. because
you're signaling that you're open for business.
I was gonna say.
well, I think I've made that pretty clear. But, I don't need a light for that. But actually, no, because the white lights inhibit melatonin production. So like I'll go in, say to bed about 9 o'clock, and I have a little reading light that I have nice warm light, and I'll read by that. And then I have a red hue.
If we could only be as good as you, Marty, going to bed with the right lighting. Do you also release lavender oil?
No, because
It's good stuff.
I used to love it, but then I read somewhere that's probably completely inaccurate and a joke that it reduces testosterone production. So I freaked out and threw away anything that I had lavender.
Even the color lavender.
Even lavender plants that were outside my window. I put lighter fluid on them and burned them. It's like, no dude wants to hear about that kind of thing.
Wait a minute. Why do you want so much testosterone?
Oh, well, I mean,
it's not that you want so much. You just don't want lower levels than you should have.
Okay.
Exactly.
I heard this the same thing when I used to drink soy milk. And then I heard soy high in estrogen can affect testosterone levels. And recently I've heard there's a myth component to that. So I don't know. I drink almond milk now, but I didn't want puffy nipples.
No, I don't think soy milk is super good for you.
Goodness. We're talking about milk and colors, you guys.
Well, we're leading into estrogen
well, Britt,
and milk.
I want to know what's on Britt's.
Where are we going?
And I wonder where that could lead. Was there any conversations in the news?
Britt has injured ribs, and she's holding her side right now. We're making her laugh.
It hurts to laugh.
Yeah.
It hurts to laugh.
It's the best medicine.
What's on your mind, Britt?
It's her ribs right now, dude.
Yeah,
you saying stupid shit, making her laugh.
It's my ribs. Listen, I turned on NPR 2 days ago for the first time in like 6 months.
Wow.
Because now it's probably like 4 months, but I've been focused not on the cerebral. I've been focused on the spiritual and the sexual and just enjoying music. So much music in the last few months.
Yeah.
But I thought I'd give it a try. And guess what was playing?
Me too.
The Supreme Court arguments.
Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health.
There you go. Potentially overturning, as they like to hyperbolically describe it, the Roe v. Wade.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fascinating. It was really, really nice to hear intelligent, calm debate. It was so tense in the room. You could hear it through the radio station, but they were doing it respectfully and they were doing it intelligently. And it was very refreshing to hear that.
Yeah, you texted us right away. And I happened to have been sitting in the car here in the driveway. I dropped the boys off at school and I was sitting in the car listening to it before coming inside and continuing to play it. And I, like you, have not listened to morning news in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
NPR used to be my staple and has fallen off for various reasons. But I thought it was fascinating. I think that getting a peek inside those deliberations is fascinating to begin with, because you used to not be able to, right? All you got was drawings and a reporter's telling of what happened.
That's true. Yeah.
And so this is still fairly new, getting an audio feed of what's going on in the Supreme Court is fascinating. And I would recommend to anybody to listen to it if they get the chance. Well, I'll link, there's a page where you can listen to this argument and any argument in this year or past years. You can download or stream it. And I'll link that on this episode page.
Yeah.
But because I feel like there's a real misunderstanding to what happens in the court, and what it's like, like the justices are like, well, I like this and I don't like this, and so that's how I'm going to vote. And it's so much more complicated than that.
Yeah.
What interested me, and I know this happens, but hearing it in real time, was how much the justices are speaking not at all to the attorney representing Mississippi or attorney, the other side, but they are speaking up to create a foundation for their argument that they will write later on. Or you would hear Justice Roberts encourage and gently nudge the female attorney to strengthen her argument for a certain aspect so that it could influence their decisions later on. And he was purposely doing that. It was interesting to watch all the strategy going on behind their comments.
I'm glad you picked up on that, because I felt like also sometimes they're asking questions or making comments, and what they're really trying to do is spur a certain line of reasoning in their colleagues.
Yes.
So they know each other, right? And this is the thing, like, we spend so much time hating each other based on what we believe in this society at large, that these people, you know, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Antonin Scalia, on complete opposite ends of the political spectrum, they went out to dinner regularly together.
But I think I think it's becoming a little more friction right now.
Yeah, I think it might be too. But they know each other.
Yeah.
But for maybe the newest Barrett, they're probably still getting to know her. But like they know how each other thinks, and so this line of questioning that I'm asking the lawyers, it's actually I'm hoping that my colleague picks up on this or considers this. But now we've got months of deliberation that they're going to do. They're going to write draft opinions and share them with
Submit
each
them
other
to each
for
other.
months.
And then compromise and keep going. And
Well, we hope the court's not been politicized any more than it normal.
Did you get to hear any of it, Marty?
Yeah, when I got the text, I turned it on and I heard a little bit of it, and it sounded like, I mean, I've heard those things before.
Yeah.
So I thought it was pretty good, and I noticed all those things. I noticed Sotomayor using some of those strategies with the plaintiff's attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to ask you, AJ, because you're a lawyer. I was going to ask you, because to me, I always thought that Roe was on tenuous legal grounds, but now that it's such hardcore precedent, that it makes it a little bit more tricky to flip it on legal grounds. Well, I mean, precedent's a legal ground, but stare decisis, right? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
So, what do you think, man? I mean, I wouldn't necessarily attribute politics or malice if they flipped it, to be honest. But I don't know how important is stare decisis as for 50 years as opposed to the law.
Right. I think that's part of the argument. Firstly, I'm a lawyer in name only, which
you went to law school and graduated.
Yes,
so
I am a doctor of the law by degree. But as my friend Mark, who's probably listening to this, is probably saying to himself right now, he's a real lawyer. I'm not. I never practiced. So I'm much more interested in this stuff now than I was when I was in law school.
Sure.
I'm just being more mature, I think. But I think that's the problem with Roe, is that it is on tenuous legal ground. The reasoning that they used back in 73 when they decided the case and looping it under the umbrella of
Fourth Amendment
privacy. A lot of people find that really questionable and tenuous, including people who are on the left, not just people on the right. I was interested to learn that many legal scholars back in the 70s suggested to the lawyers that were arguing the Roe case on the side of abortion rights that the privacy argument was not the way to go, that it would be a mistake to argue that, and that it would make it tenuous. And one of those legal scholars was Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Wow.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But don't you feel that, especially in this government, that regardless of how Roe v. Wade was founded, precedent seems to have a stronger pull than even ethical morality in court cases these days? Precedence just always seems to take the weight.
It does until it doesn't, right? Like they argued yesterday with Plessy versus
Ferguson and Brown Board of
Ferguson.
Education.
Right. It was just like you get to a point where you say these are the decisions of the past and those decisions were wrong. But there's a long list of criteria you have to meet to be able to match that. And I guess that's the question, is can they meet it in this case? You know, and I'm like you, Marty. I'm like, I think that what makes this case so difficult, and by that I mean just the abortion debate in general, is that if you're honest, there's good arguments on both sides of it.
Legal arguments.
Yeah.
Good legal arguments.
I guess there's good moral arguments too. On
I
both
think so
sides
too.
Of it. Yeah.
And oftentimes we don't admit that in the case. And you have said things in the past that caught my attention, Britt. Like once we were talking about vaccines.
Okay.
And I asked, you know, if the my body, my choice reasoning resonates with vaccines. And your reaction was generally like that you had a problem with that reasoning, period.
I do not like the my body, my choice argument.
Tell me about that.
Okay, so simply put, my body, my choice doesn't work because at a certain point, and currently Roe v. Wade, I think, has the right compromise up to the point of viability for the fetus. There is a point where it is not just your body. Mm-hmm. Yes, the rights of the individual matter, and women's rights should be fought for hook and nail, but there does come to a point where you're not making just a decision for your own body. You're making a decision for the body of the life of another being, regardless of where they are, if they're inside your belly or outside your belly. Mm-hmm. If there's a point of viability, then there's that too. And as ineloquent as Justice Kavanaugh was in the arguments, he still did bring up a very good ethical point that when you push for the individual rights and interests of the woman, what makes you that it kind of negates the opportunity to push for the individual rights of the unborn baby. Mm-hmm. And he said, you can't have both. You can't say we're protecting women's rights and also protecting the baby's rights. And this is his perspective, right? Mm-hmm. Not necessarily mine. But where do you draw that line? The line keeps changing because of science.
That's the tricky part now, right?
So the my body, my choice for me, it's as reductive as defund the police. Mm-hmm. I completely understand and empathize the reasoning behind it.
And it's a catchy phrase.
I just think it neglects the ethical interests of the generally conservative side. And you have to include that, like you said, Marty, you have to include the morality in this. Because there does come a point during abortion, whether it's at 24, 26, 27 weeks, where it does involve killing a being.
And what is that line now? It's such that viability
24
line.
weeks.
Yeah, 23 weeks.
That was what was decided. I think in 73 it was 28 weeks or 27, something like that.
Right.
And it's moved to like
down.
23, 24. But now, when is a fetus actually viable?
Which is why some people on the left think this Mississippi case is absolutely atrocious. 15 weeks is absolutely atrocious. Mm-hmm. Some women don't even know. But in 10 years, 15 weeks might be the age of viability.
Yeah, well, right.
So it's a valid argument to look at.
Right.
And I mean, but I think the vaccine choice is, that affects other humans too. I mean, born humans. So that should be part of the calculus. I mean, it's mm-hmm. kind of cliche.
I think it is.
So I think both. I think my body, my choice. I think that's relevant to both the abortion case and the vaccine case.
Yes, but it's so hard because you cannot make that argument without understanding I will just say conservative for the sake of this argument. It's not always the conservative viewpoint.
Yeah.
But you have to understand that position, or else you're not going to get anywhere like we have. And this is why I think Roe v. Wade should be upheld, because I feel like it has the best compromise.
With the 23-ish week viability line.
With allowing abortion up to the age of viability, and beyond that, allowing it in the case of, medical necessity.
And I guess, go ahead, Marty.
Well, I was going to say, when I talk about it being relevant to both the vaccine or the pregnant woman, I'm talking about as it pertains to the government mandating something or forcing something, whether it's forcing a woman to bring a baby to term or forcing someone to get a vaccine.
Right. Right.
So,
what's the greater? Is there a greater interest?
Yeah, and that's that abortion is so. I mean, I just think that right now there's such good room for compromise. We all want to. I don't know anybody that likes abortions. Right. So it's like I don't know. I've known plenty of women that have had them, but it's like I don't know any of them that were like, "Hey, great, awesome! I'm going to go get an abortion."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's a consensus that we all want to reduce them. I mean, it's obviously 0 is the number, but it's probably never going to be a 0 number. So what can we all do to come together? But this is a problem for every subject now in our
I think
discourse.
that's important that you said that 0 is never going to be the number. And the fact of the matter is that if you make abortion, which is not going to happen, but if you made abortion illegal from coast to coast, and I say that's not going to happen because if Roe's overturned, then it's that it goes back to the states. Each state decides.
Right.
But if you made abortion illegal from coast to coast, abortions would still happen, right? So you're right that it will never be 0.
They've happened forever. Right. People would drink potions and poisons to kill babies. I mean,
there's another podcast that I'll also link to the show notes
a lesser
here.
podcast.
That's Barry Weiss's podcast, which is titled Honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever sent you guys this episode because I think I just didn't want to bombard you with stuff. It was during a period where we were exchanging a lot of, oh, hey, have you heard this? But there's an episode on it where she and another woman, Christina Hoff Sommers, I believe it was, or Caitlin Flanagan, one of them, kind of moderate conservative, they talk about abortion. And it is possibly the best conversation on abortion I've ever heard.
Wow.
Nuanced, difficult, why it's necessary, but why it's also just a really difficult subject. It was a wonderful conversation. It's hard, and even like Britt, you would call yourself a feminist, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that there are intelligent, thoughtful, good people who are against abortion?
Oh, absolutely. Look, feminism being associated with certain political viewpoints is really faulty, and that frustrates me a lot. Feminism being associated with Gloria Steinem, no makeup, boring clothing wearing, Harvard educated, whatever, is also faulty.
Yeah.
My definition of feminism is being able to be whatever kind of woman you want to be, however you look, however you dress, however you wear, have whatever career you want, and then have the same equal rights and opportunities as men during that process. That's a feminist.
I like that definition.
I like that too.
So you can be a badass motorcycle bitch. You can be an LA lip injection, high heel wearing Barbie. And either way, you're both a feminist.
You looked at Marty when you said badass motorcycle bitch.
Yeah,
I
well, she
did.
forgot the tattoos, but she's got
and then she looked at me when she said LA lipo injected Barbie.
Her
Right?
body language
So
is very readable.
Are we renaming this podcast to Brit the Barbie and the Bitch?
I like it, man.
Yeah.
Well played.
I don't know. Your lips are getting a little thin in your age, AJ.
That's true. I should puff them up a little bit. Glad you noticed that.
There are exercises you can do to make them more puffy,
So-
but I'm glad because that's I feel like a lot of times the conversation out there when it comes to such a hot button issue is that on the anti-abortion side, it is a bunch of men trying to pull the strings just to control women's bodies, that's the goal. And while I don't doubt that that's the case with some people, I think that there are a lot of good people who truly believe abortion is murder and oppose it. I myself, murder is a strong word. I believe that abortion is without a doubt the snuffing out of a life. If we want to call that killing, I guess at a certain point
and
of
do
viability.
you believe that at any time during the woman's pregnancy?
No. There is an exhibit at OMSI, at the Oregon Museum of Science.
For any woman who's had a miscarriage, that's a really tough exhibit.
and it's a portion of the room where it's kind of circular, and it goes through each week of the fetus's development,
And it's lined
up
with
until birth.
clear jars, and inside each jar is an actual fetus, correct?
I can't remember if it's an actual or if it's a facsimile. But I stood
either
in
way,
the middle.
a very realistic looking fetus inside each jar at each age of development within the womb.
A couple of years ago, I stood in the middle of that room and just started at conception and looked at each one week by week, trying to define for myself at which point I became uncomfortable with the idea of abortion. And a lot of it had to do with the more it looks human.
Sure.
For me visually.
Sure.
And so, I do believe it is the snuffing out of a life, increasingly so as the weeks go by. And I also believe it should be legal with limits, with reasonable limits, because they're going to happen anyways. And because it does so disproportionately affect a woman's life.
And it affects another life too. There's two lives involved
There are
here.
two, yes, for sure.
The thing is, it's so tricky. Like, again, like everything in our discourse, but back in Bill Clinton's presidency, I remember, it was so perplexing to me because, things were polarized back then too, but nothing like now. But Clinton proposed a measure he was going to propose strict restrictions on late-term abortions. Basically banning them, but with exception
Which is like third trimester? Is that what's considered a late term?
Well, yes, and sometimes up until the last day when a woman's, maybe she's going to bleed out if they have this birth. But he said if it's rape, incest, or a medical condition that affects the life of the mother, that's an exception. And the truth of the matter is, of late-term abortions, it was something like 99% of them were those three categories.
Yeah.
But the Republicans back then would not allow that. But it was a campaign issue because then they wanted to, it was the midterms, I think, were coming up, and then they wanted to just take pictures of, late-term abortions, put them bloody fetuses on tables and campaign against the Democrats.
That's the problem with what is, I think, legally it's not an unsound argument that the Constitution says nothing about abortion or these types of rights. And therefore, if it's not in the Constitution, it's kicked back to the people. So if you want to make abortion legal, pass a law to make it legal. Legally speaking, that's not an unsound position to take. The problem is that our legal system, in terms of making laws, the lawmaking system, Congress, it just doesn't work.
Not anymore, no.
And so I don't feel comfortable depending on that. It's broken right now.
And to say something is not in the Constitution is unfair because there's 100 laws that aren't in the Constitutions that the Supreme Court and Congress has enacted. LGBT rights and marriage rights and civil rights, they've all been created without that constitutional foundation. So why should this not be included in part of that decision making? Well,
I think that's what the court is saying. The court is saying, let's overturn this legally dubious Roe v. Wade and let the states or Congress make the law. Because the courts will say if Congress makes the law, unless it violates the Constitution, then it's the law of the land. And that's what the judges, I think, are saying.
It's I'm trying to think of an example of a law. A lot of times they sneak it under a wider umbrella, like they did with the right to privacy, like the right to privacy.
Okay.
Or under dubious language. You said earlier that late-term abortion, medically necessary. I understand the conservative hesitation with that. There's a lot you could do with that language. And I myself have had an obstetrician say to me, if you get an abortion up to this point, if you want to do it after that, it has to be medically necessary, but I can always find a way to work my way around that.
But you can always find a law that would be, again, there's always going to be examples of ways to get around these things. It's minimizing all those things. You could even say 2 doctors have to sign off on it, and there's oversight.
You mean nationally or state by state? That's the problem.
Either one.
Because I think the argument for abortion rights advocates is that if it's easy to say, well, less than half the states will put restrictions on abortions if Roe was overturned. But for the women in those states, like in Mississippi right now, there's one clinic where you can get an abortion.
Right.
And so they're, arguing for the rights to access for these women, which are oftentimes the lower. If you have money, you're going to go to another state to get an abortion.
Right, but that's the courts say, well, that's not our business. It's let the Congress come up with a law that's national.
But they won't.
And the people who support it say it cannot go back to the states because it needs to be a fundamental right, therefore a federal right for all women.
Right. Do you, Britt, how do you feel about... you're on a podcast right now with 2 men talking about abortion. How do you feel about, there is a line of thought that many people feel like, excuse me, this is up to women to decide and it's to them. And I'm, as a man, I don't need to be weighing in on this.
Wouldn't this be something like saying, you can't decide on the death penalty in prisons if you have never been a prisoner or if you're not an officer of the law? Only people who are involved in that industry get to be involved in the decision-making process?
Whatever your demarcation is, at some point, I think, there are some people that say it's not a life until it's actually born, but I think that's a minority. But, I think that, at some point, whenever we decide, whether it's 23, 24 weeks or 15, that it's a life. And so every human has a right to weigh in on it. I mean, it is the woman's body. So right now, my feeling is to defer at least up until 24 weeks, the viability to the woman on that. I don't like the idea of telling a woman what to do with her body. But I think at some point, everybody in civilization has a right to weigh in on
is vested in it.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine being up close and personal with either decision. I cannot imagine watching a woman who is more than 4 months pregnant getting an abortion, because that would sort of break my heart in many ways.
Yeah.
Just empathy for the baby. I also cannot imagine looking a woman in the eyes and saying, you didn't know you were pregnant? Sorry, you've passed the line. Or you didn't know the law. Sorry, you're stuck. And now, great, your life is going to be changed.
Well, and put that baby up for adoption. There's a lot of options right now for that.
Marty, you make it sound easy, but I mean, so many women don't even have the social resources to access that.
And also the psychological aspect of it.
They can't work and be pregnant at the same time.
Right. Barrett brought that up, Amy Coney Barrett. By the way, do we have to say all three of her names every time, or are we ever just going to say
Amy
Barrett?
Coney
You have to. You can just say AB or ACB.
ACB. She brought that up in terms of the what do they call?
She did the safe haven laws.
Safe haven laws, where you can drop a baby off at a fire station or a clinic, but. I feel like that's a valid point on paper, but it discounts the psychological impact of having to carry a baby full term and then, for all intents and purposes, abandon it. Like we're talking about people here.
Yeah,
we're talking about emotions and attachment and morality, which can mean many different things. So it's kind of that I found that to be a very kind of academic point to make that was valid. It had some validity, but it discounted the human.
Well,
it's just as bad as having a vet come back from a war and not having mental health services for them. If we're going to fight for those vet protections, you want to fight for protections like that for the women too.
Right.
Well, and it's just logistics too, like you just said too. That was a little bit of a, you're right. If they can't work because they have a troubled pregnancy for like the last 3 months or something, they have to committed to bed rest, are they going to be able to keep their jobs?
And the cost, that's another thing that I'd done a little deeper research knowing that we were going to talk about this, which was really fortunate because I learned things I didn't know, which is, many other countries, including European countries, have a 12-week or 15-week limit on abortion. Not all. And Roberts was making this point, but a counterpoint to that I learned, which is a really valid perspective, is that many of those countries have nationalized health care. Mm-hmm. And so the access to abortion is guaranteed as part of that health care. Whereas here it's not. And it is a procedure of varying costs depending on where you are and where you go. And so it's not as simple to say, well, you have up until 12 or 15 weeks and then you pass the line. Because for some people, they might still be trying to gather the $600 or whatever.
Absolutely.
Well, would they also similarly have the resources to support a woman through her pregnancy? I would imagine they would. So that she
the European countries. Yeah. I would imagine, again, to varying degrees depending on the country, they have something, but that was an aspect that I'd never thought about, is the kind of you're on your own aspect when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah, I really didn't think about that either.
Yeah. That was really, really valid. And another one was, what would you guys guess the difference is in attitudes on abortion split by gender? Nationally,
I would think.
In America?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
You guess first, Britt.
Just to say the question that abortion should be legal in all cases or legal in cases with some exceptions. And also people who are absolutely against abortion. Like, what do you think the split would be by gender?
I would think maybe more women would actually support less. I don't want to call it abortion rights, but more women would support restrictions.
I mean,
would support
restrictions in abortion.
Restrictions?
Wanting there to be
more restrictions.
More restrictions. Interesting. What's your reasoning?
Because once you've been pregnant and once you've had a baby, or once you've had that maternal instinct and experienced that as a woman, your views change.
Did yours?
100%.
Really?
I was 100% pro-choice before I had a child, and I've talked to many, many women who experience the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Does it switch them to? Or no, I'm sorry, I was 100% pro. Yeah, I was 100% pro-choice.
Yeah.
Before having a child, and then after having a child, that swerved substantially.
So it just got more complex. Your views got more complex.
Absolutely.
After that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You have the being growing inside of you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
You're feeling it
interesting.
happen.
I was going to say that the women would be more supportive of fewer restrictions on abortions, but my answer was going to be the opposite because you asked the question, and I thought it was intuitive that it must be some, the opposite of what would be normal, what would be intuitively correct.
Yeah.
But what you just said just blew my mind. I
hadn't thought of that either.
It's like, wow, okay.
Yeah. It was the split is really like very, very close. Is it? It's mostly within the statistical variance.
Huh.
We in the industry call that the standard deviation.
The standard deviation. Yeah. That's what I meant.
Just wanted to let you know anyway.
Damn it. Which surprised me a little bit too. I thought that more men would be anti-abortion, and I think part of that might be that I've just ingested a certain kind of narrative coming from a certain point of view for quite a few years.
Well, it's a male perspective too.
Yeah,
I thought just exactly like you're thinking, and then when Britt said that about already having had a baby, it's like, wow, yeah, no shit. I guess that's
right.
Yeah.
Although there are, again, varying examples, right? I think that there are women who've had babies who would still consider. I think there's a segment of the population that views abortion as, especially early on, as like not much more than removing a mole. And I don't know if they take that position because they feel like they need to politically, like they can't let. They can't give any air to anything that complicates the argument. I would call this, like, for myself, I kind of call this the Lena Dunham position. It's a very kind of Hollywood.
Who's Lena Dunham?
Far left.
She's the writer and creator and star in Girls, the HBO series.
I never heard of it.
Just
my goodness, Marty, I thought you would have watched it.
Oh, if there's
a lot of sex.
Well, then I'll start watching it. I can't believe I missed it either. Jeez.
AJ, I mean, that's sure, but for the sake of this argument, I think the majority of the people understand how utterly complex the abortion debate is.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
So it's complex for me. Personally, I'm pro-life. Politically, I'm pro-choice. If I got pregnant now, I would abort because my OB would never support me being pregnant, and we know that I would have major health scares if I was.
Right.
There's no black and white in many women's lives. It really determines where they are in their life, what their experiences are.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of black
it's really
and white
tricky.
in any issue, and I think fundamentally that's one of the biggest problems we have as a society and a species is that we can't. AJ's looking at me serious. We can't have nuanced conversations.
I think we can in person.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. We can more easily.
And I've seen. I can't remember if it was podcasts or an episode. Maybe it was like a This American Life or something like that, where you had a really staunch abortion rights advocate who had met up with. And started regularly communicating in person with a very staunch pro-life or anti-choice, whatever moniker you choose, advocate, both women. And they both came to see each other as more human instead of a type, and to see that even though they disagreed with one another and had not moved each other off their position, that the other was not a ghoul. And it seems like this more than any other, more than guns, more than healthcare, more than anything, this topic is the one that brings out
the ghouls,
the most passion, and if not the ghouls, then the ghoul spotters, right?
Well, religion comes into play here too.
It does, but it's not just coming from that realm, right? Well, if you, again, like I made kind of, well, like I alluded to, that for some people, anybody who's pro-life is some male puppeteer in some version of The Handmaid's Tale that they're living in. That,
Right.
I don't see it. To me, that negates, like, there's not just one way to be a real woman, like you alluded to before.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you even if you aren't a feminist, if you're somebody's a housewife that's pro-life and does not consider themselves a feminist, you still get to be a real woman.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that those passions cloud this issue so much that then you have the legal complexities of it, which are truly, truly complex.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I fully understand it. I think most of us don't fully understand what's going to go on in that Supreme Court building.
No,
most of us think this is how these people think. This is their worldview. And so this is how they're going to vote. And they're human. So some of that's going to come into play. But there are layers and layers and layers of complexity when it comes to this. And again, back to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, even as a Supreme Court justice, she had, off the record, not on the job, had opined that, maybe it would be good if Roe was overturned, because then you get a chance to bring another case in there that's a little more grounded in solid law.
Oh, interesting.
Which I had known that a few years ago, and it was interesting to learn just in the past couple of days that as a younger legal scholar, she had suggested that the argument made in Roe was not the best argument to be made when that argument was being made. Super interesting. Of course, people are all now gnashing their teeth at each other and blaming each other for, I saw they're attacking Susan Sarandon for supporting Bernie Sanders and keeping Hillary Clinton from being elected. So that tipped the Supreme Court. Well, there's a lot of ways to see that.
It's easy to blame Susan Sarandon on this.
But damn it, she was so good in Bull Durham.
Yeah, I kind of like Susan Sarandon, but I don't really know much about her personally.
I do have a hard time with anybody who would support a law that would ban abortions altogether, because I feel like if their goal really is to limit abortions, as we said, they would look at the history of it. They would look at the nuances, realize that abortion is going to happen no matter what. Mm-hmm. Just like sex is going to happen no matter what. So instead of banning sex, hand out the condoms or teach
it's not
sex
happening
education.
for me, that's for sure. But
but it's going to happen
I feel like
no matter what.
Even the conservatives want something along the lines of Roe v. Wade, because that's going to be more effective.
Some of them. I mean, I think there are some people who are very passionate about overturning Roe, and they
entirely, or making it more like left to the states.
I think that there's a spectrum.
Entirely.
I think for some people it's entirely
straight up murder to some people.
Yes,
a lot of people.
And I think for some it would be kind of left to the states, and then if they happen to live in a state that there's laws in place right now that if Roe gets overturned, they automatically go on the books. They're trigger laws,
right.
and several states have them.
Yeah, they're ready to go.
And I think, interestingly enough, the Attorney General of Mississippi is a woman, right? And she is anti-abortion, and she believes that she makes some argument that being anti-abortion is actually empowering women to realize that they can be parents and also pursue a career and not be limited.
That sounds political to me.
Yeah.
That sounds political to me. I would say 20% of people who are anti-abortion, I would guess, are virulently like it is straight up murder and it needs to be. No matter what.
And they don't see it any
even
other way.
Even in the case of rape and incest,
yes,
right? Which everything. Are these laws right now? Like, is this case that was heard yesterday?
God works in mysterious ways.
Well, that is true. But is this case that was heard yesterday, is that banning post 15 weeks, even in the case of rape and incest? I think it is.
That I don't know.
I think I heard that it is.
But that there's exceptions?
That's where you lose me wholeheartedly. Is not making exceptions for rape and incest that go beyond whatever the reasonable line is for just abortion at large.
Yeah, that's too early. There's a lot of women who, not me, but a lot of women who really don't know they're pregnant up until around 3 months.
Really?
Yeah.
3 months.
And some women who don't know entirely, that's way more rare. But if they're not checking themselves continuously, it's very possible.
I'm not laughing at that. I was just smiling because I was a girlfriend I had a long time ago We dodged a few bullets, no pun intended. And she one time she was sitting on the couch, and I just casually said, "Hey, honey, isn't it just about your time of the month?" And she's like, I'm either 1 day late or 8 days late. I was like, "Oh, what?"
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe we should check that.
Yeah. 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 I guess you're right. Right. 3 months in, that's the end of the first trimester. You're about 12 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very possible to not know you're pregnant.
Well, I don't
Maybe
know.
just kind of like feeling off, feeling a
if you
little
miss
off.
3 periods or 2, I mean,
But for some
women don't miss their periods.
And some women miss periods as part of just situation normal.
Miss their periods all the time, and some women are overwhelmed. They're not checking.
I have my period every month.
I'm so happy for you, Marty.
Marty's very regular.
Yeah, it's maybe it's menopause.
It might be menopause. You're going through the change of life.
Yeah. It's so hard. I can't wait to see.
Are you doing?
What they
are
decide.
You? Yeah, me too. It's going to be weeks, right? I mean, months.
Yes.
And a lot of people seem to think that there is going to be a change to Roe, like just based on listening to them yesterday. I don't know if that's right or not, but a lot of people have kind of weighed in with that.
Do you want my
opinion.
prediction?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Well, okay. My prediction is that Roe will not be overturned, but this Mississippi law will be upheld.
How can you uphold it and not overturn Roe?
Well, then the intent is not to overturn Roe with this. The intent is to chip away slowly at Roe so that it eventually can be overturned.
Right. And I think that this relatively new conservative court, I think that they have a sense of not wanting to be viewed as just another political arm of the government, another political branch.
They seem very aware of that.
And being aware of that, I think they can achieve their objective in this matter without flipping Roe and save some sort of a sense that they're not political tools.
Right.
So that's what I think is going to happen. Just a guess. I mean, like I said, I'm not a lawyer.
But so they would, but yeah, I wonder what that would look like. Are they upholding the Mississippi law? But by upholding the Mississippi law, you at the very least chip away at Roe because you change the viability line to 15 weeks,
something like that.
Listen, the viability line is always medical, right? So viability right now is at 23 weeks. You would change the. Is that
the medical fact or is that the legal? Like if there's a 20-week-old premature, can they stay alive? So viability means can the infant be outside of the mother's body in a hospital and survive without the mother? Right. So right now, as far as I understand, the viability is 23 weeks. Is it? Okay.
I think that's reasonable, sort of as a compromise, but I've always thought the viability thing was a little bit weak because, I mean, that doesn't mean it's not a life. I mean, if I put you on the moon, you would die, but you're clearly a human being in a life.
Right.
You're outside your environment.
Right. So, but I think they had to pick a way to draw a line.
I think they have. Yeah.
How else do you draw a line? It's either that or it's arbitrary, like completely arbitrary.
And that would be dangerous for women, for their rights when they're first pregnant.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I suppose, how many weeks are you at the beginning of your third trimester?
12, right?
No,
third. 12 months. Yes.
Third would be 24.
Yeah.
So, right. So let's say they pick an arbitrary line that just says 25 weeks is the cutoff time. Again, you got to find a justification for it. And it seems like viability, because it has its foundations in some sort of science and medicine, is the safest harbor for finding a line.
I think, reasonable people can say, scientists might say 25 weeks is viability, and you could say, okay, well, let's make it 20, just in an abundance of caution. As science changes, we don't know everything, and make that the cutoff. So it's somewhat arbitrary, but you get to mix the science and the arbitrary together and come up with something reasonable.
Yeah. And by the way, Britt, I wanted to thank you. I had a coughing fit while I asked you the question, but I wanted to thank you for your answer on whether or not men's voices should be heard at all in this debate, because it's something I've thought about a lot, and how I feel about that.
I love listening to a white privileged man talk, AJ.
Well,
It's
that's,
delightful.
That's
Well,
You guys,
I don't
you
know.
guys
You
are
gave me
still
a compliment.
valid.
Didn't you just get beat down?
I think I just gave you a compliment, and you just
You
like
got crushed.
You just sing me. What's that all
I
about?
was about to say
no,
something.
no, for real. What's that all about?
I was about to say something too, but I saw that beat
Yeah.
down. I thought I'll just keep quiet over here.
Oh man!
no,
Now
what
I'm
really?
getting shit.
What is that? What's that all about, Britt?
Okay, so the compliment was thanks for your opinion because I like your opinion because it still validates me. Is that
no?
did I hear
your
you
compliment is thanks for giving me a
voice.
thoughtful response.
wrong? Okay.
That that's really. I mean, that I don't know about that impulse, Brett. Like that's. I know that it's like fair game. It's okay to
Well, I would think
shit
that,
on men no matter what, but that's kind of honestly no.
Here goes
for real,
another
man.
passive
Yeah,
aggressive
but
going.
who's gonna be asking that question?
There's a lot of
Is,
people. There's
is
a lot of
my
people.
opinion still valid?
No,
There's a lot of people that have opinions as to whether a man's voice should be heard on this topic at all.
I feel
Yeah.
the same way, Britt. I was feeling the same way AJ is. I mean, I am really hesitant to talk about it because as a man, I don't really. I mean, you've enlightened me on 3 or 4 things today already, and what are the chances of that? Just kidding, just kidding.
Yeah.
No, but no. So seriously, though,
Okay, so would it be like me hesitant to talk about racial issues because I'm a white woman and somebody saying yes, it's okay for you to talk about it?
no, a little bit, but maybe talking about Peyronie's disease or something. I don't know.
Here's my thinking on it is number one, my thanking you was because I felt like your answer was thoughtful. Not because I agree with it or not. Like it can be
Okay.
thoughtful and I can disagree with it. My thought on this topic is kind of lines up with part of what you said in that, we're all part of the society and we're all invested in
In life,
the outcome of this really important topic.
Yeah.
Also, this topic affects women disproportionately, but it does also affect men. Like if I get someone pregnant and abortion is illegal, that affects the rest of my life too.
Mm-hmm.
or if you feel strongly that it's a full human life, then you're human, and so is the baby or the fetus.
Sure. Or if everything has to be split by gender, half the babies being killed are male, and so somebody can say I'm speaking over them. Like, how much do we want to go get reductive?
Right.
Yeah.
But I know I'm hesitant. I mean, I'm hesitant to speak on a lot of racial issues too. I mean, it's just a fact. I still voice my opinion. I try to do it with circumspection and sensitivity, but I think it's fair to ask the question. I mean, again, one of the narratives you hear from the pro-choice side is, a bunch of old white men making decisions for women. And it's like, I take that to heart. I'm like, well, I don't like that. I don't like to think that I'm old, but I'm a man. And yeah, I need to think about deferring a little bit to a woman who's having to make this decision. So, and there's a big controversy about whether a man should be part of that decision and what legal rights he should have in that decision. So,
Yeah, that's a whole other debate entirely.
yeah, but I was glad to hear your thoughts on that too. So I don't think AJ was just being obsequious.
No.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah.
So
I'm surprised that you would think that. Honestly, that kind of shocked me.
You
No,
are a
I
little bit of a wise ass, though.
I don't think you were being obsequious. I thought that the question was founded in the white man's desire to be heard, right?
Is that a specific desire, like apart from the human desire to be heard?
Have you heard his voice?
I mean, we're all sitting here hosting a podcast, so let's like
And then
nobody here has a problem.
And then it's just a
Talking.
female trigger point, right? So I spent 36 years of my life shutting up, closing my mouth, being told to listen to the white patriarchal man in the room because his voice is more valid than mine.
Sure.
So it's partly triggering, but listen, it's very fair to say that there is a hugely disproportionate number of white privileged males who have the microphones in America through media, through politics, through everything else. And so a lot of people, when they hear the two of you on the podcast, they're not going to take their time to listen. They're just going to say, it's just two other old white men talking about shit they shouldn't be talking about.
I know people who have done that.
But the best thing about this podcast is because you guys aren't just talking, you aren't just spewing stuff. You are listening, you're bringing guests in, you're doing what, regardless of your race and your gender, everybody should be doing more of. And that's why I'm here.
Well, that's and combating that, not just the perception of it, but the reality is one of the reasons we asked you, if you'd be interested in joining us, is seeing our own blind spots, right? The point of the whole thing is how much wider can we get that canvas of perspective?
Did you say whiter or wider?
Wider. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, man.
But for sure, I mean, listen, there's people who think it's ridiculous that we'd even try to have a podcast because we're white, and until you came on, we're male, right?
But we're very sensitive. We're very sensitive.
I don't know what to say exactly. I don't know what to say to that. Like,
you can amplify the voice or you can be the voice. And I feel like you guys are amplifying the voices by bringing other perspectives to the table. And
but don't say you guys, because it's us, it's we, right?
We, sure,
right?
yeah.
It's not just you guys. It's Marty and I may have started off just the two of us, right? But now this is very much a trio. Like I can't represent every voice or every perspective, but even though I am a smartass and I like being funny, I do try to be thoughtful too.
Sometimes.
You know? No, a lot of the time.
I'm kidding. I'm trying to trigger you, man.
This would be a good question. We should ask our listeners if they think our perspective is too narrow or if it needs to be broadened more. I mean, we're all on very similar sociogeographic scales, socioeconomic scales. We're in similar ranges here. We
are all in similar ranges, and yet it's difficult to get a full sense of what someone's life experience has been. You know, I'm at a certain socioeconomic place right now that I did not spend a childhood in, very much so, and that's part of the difficulty of looking at someone and saying, you know, this race, this gender, so I know this about them, or this is where they live now, or, you know, I mean, again, like, I don't mind being called a white male, but you've seen my mom. She's not fucking white.
Yeah. And you and I, I'm not sure about your upbringing, Marty, but you and I understand poverty and the stress of huge financial strain more than other folks in our rich neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because we've lived it.
Right. And so that gives perspective. Yeah, I mean, I think my perspective is narrow in the way that a human being's perspective at some point is narrow. But trying to look beyond that can be challenging sometimes.
Well, and part of the goal of our podcast is to get diverse opinions with amongst, not just among ourselves, but we bring guests in and we talk to people and we talk about a variety of subjects. So I think we get a lot of different perspectives, and just us having these free rangers, you know, there's a decent diversity of backgrounds and perspectives here, and I think, well, I'll just leave it at that. I think there is. Yeah, I mean, we don't have, we're not this studio isn't full of the bastion of intersectionality, but I think it's full of thoughtful people with differing perspectives. Yeah.
Anyways.
And handsome, very handsome and attractive as well.
We got off on a tangent, but it's a worthwhile tangent. But yeah, back to the topic. I think women's voices should be preeminent in this topic, although not exclusive, because we're all part of the society.
Roger that.
Which is kind of, I think,
Amen
probably lines up with what you had expressed as well.
Absolutely.